Hello, wonderful. This is Sarah, and I want to talk about a phrase that I hear often, or that I say often to my clients and then it's one of the things that it sticks with them, and then it comes back into the rotation often. So I know it's kind of like an oldie but a goodie in its ability to help people. Okay. And so the phrase is, who would be good at that? Okay. Who would be good at that? And a lot of our most difficult thoughts are things that we don't always say out loud. And our most difficult situations are obviously the ones that are the hardest to navigate through, whether it be health issues, family issues. They're just tricky. There's a lot of really difficult emotions involved. And I see people say things like, oh, I'm not handling it well, or almost like beating themselves up, like, oh, I shouldn't be sad, or I shouldn't be so upset, or I shouldn't let it get to me, or I shouldn't, let it bother me. And one of my favorite phrases for myself and one of my favorite phrases for others in these situations is like, well, who would be good at that? If you have a major health scare, who would be good at that? If you lose your job, who would be good at that? If you're in a toxic situation or with a toxic person, who would be good at that? If you have a major disappointment from a family member, who would be good at that? If you get left out of something that was important to you, who would be good at that? If there's a disappointment with your child and you see your child struggling, but you can't help them or can't control the situation, who would be good at that? And I just love the phrase because I think we put so much pressure on ourselves within things that we cannot control, things within the political system, other people's opinions, other people's thoughts, all these types of things. We just can't control them. And then we have a normal emotional reaction, which could be sadness, which could be anger, which could be frustration, which could be a feeling of helplessness. And then we're like, oh, I shouldn't be so sad. I shouldn't let that get to me. I shouldn't let that bother me. I thought I was healed. And we put this like really odd pressure on ourselves to not have a human experience. Now, I don't like this part of being a human. I wish, people could act like themselves, or whatever happened in my life, be just so zen. It's like, oh wow, oh, okay, I just lost my leg. Oh, I guess I'm just gonna be zen about it. It was meant to be, right? There's actually a story I read in college, and that was like the principle of the story. Like, it was like all these terrible things happen. I can't remember the name of the story. All these terrible things happen. And at the end, they were deformed and all, attacked and lost everything and lost family members. And at the end of the story, they're sitting, I think it was underneath a persimmon tree. And they're like, well, it's good that all these terrible things happened to me, because if they hadn't happened, then I wouldn't be able to sit and enjoy this persimmon. And you're just like, what? And that's actually the point of the story, is to kind of point out the disillusion from that experience and just be like, okay, that was just bad. It's okay to say it was bad. You don't have to do so much spiritual bypassing that it's like, well, I'm just so glad that all my family died and all this happened. And I think they lost an eye, and I'm deformed and I have no money and I'm starving because then I got this persimmon tree. It's great. It's all meant to be. Right. And so the phrase, who would be good at that, kind of gives you that middle ground of like, okay, bad things happened. I'm having a normal reaction, a normal human reaction to bad things happening. And it doesn't make me bad. Me being sad, or me being upset, or me being frustrated, or me being tired, emotionally tired, or physically tired, it doesn't make me bad. Just ask yourself, who would be good at that? Who is good at getting a really bad health scare? Who is good at being in a toxic situation? Who is good at being afraid for their children? Who is good at, having many circumstances in their life, like feel like the bottom is dropping out from underneath them and they don't know what to do, right? Who would be good at that? Okay. And when you start to kind of like, it's like, oh, yeah, that's not really something to be good at. Running is something to be good at. Singing is something to be good at. Cooking is something to be good at. Business strategy is something to be good at. Like human pain, there is no rule book, first off. So when you're saying something like, oh, I shouldn't be sad, I shouldn't this, just give yourself permission. Well, who would be good at that? And then it starts to give you the perspective that it's like, okay, well, this is just like a crappy human situation. And maybe it'll all work out fine. And maybe things will get worse. And maybe things will get better. And if I'm not feeling tip-top shape, right? If I'm not feeling living your best life right now, I'm having a normal human experience. It doesn't mean I'm bad. It doesn't mean I'm not healed. It doesn't mean I'm weak. It doesn't mean anything about me. I'm having a normal human reaction to a difficult human experience. I almost said abnormal human experience, but that is not what I meant. A difficult human experience. Okay. So I wanted to share that phrase with you because it's kind of one of those that when I'm working with people or coaching and I kind of say it one time, they say it back to me and they say it back to one another very often because it gives them kind of that instant relief. It's like, when we notice someone being hard on themselves or notice someone frustrated with themselves, that they're having a difficult time. Well, who would be good at that? Who is good at that stuff? And it really kind of puts it in perspective and helps people be more kind and gentle when life just knocks you down. And it makes it it kind of makes it easier to get up. But if you feel like life knocked me down, I'm just in the trenches right now. It's like, well, who's good at being in the trenches? It's not something to be good at. You're sad. It's okay. So I hope that helps you on your journey to becoming toxic person proof.